Welcome everyone. I'm so pleased to be presenting to all of you. My name is Katy Vescio. I'm a member of Mega's CCA team, and I'm really looking forward to working with you all, continuing this effort that we started last year, and for many of you started way back in 2019 and even before. This webinar is being provided via recording to provide the most scheduling flexibility. I know it's difficult to find a time that works for everyone, so we hope that you're watching this at your convenience. We are going to offer 2 live Q&A sessions via webinar. Both are on Wednesday, February 3rd, one at 11 a.m. Eastern, the other one at 1 p.m. Eastern. So if you can't make either of those times, or you're watching this recording much later, you can always call or email our team at any time. We look forward to further discussion with each of you at your convenience. All right, so today my colleague Nicole and I are going to go over 4 main topics. First, I'm going to provide a bit of a market overview and talk a little bit about electricity pricing and kind of the landscape in 2020. Next, I'll discuss a few state initiatives, some new, some recently updated, and then talk a little bit about how those are going to impact CCA. Nicole's then going to provide some details on Mega's strategy for CCA in 2021, and we're going to talk a lot about how we're going to expand our offering, provide more value for you and your communities, and prepare to launch CCA. Lastly, we'll cover the planning that needs to happen in order to set us up for a successful CCA program. Okay, so over the last year, electricity prices were impacted by several major events. We had the pandemic and subsequent economic slowdown. We had, global and national economic slowdown. Big drop in demand for electricity came out of this pandemic. Commodity prices took a big hit in 2020, and you may have seen some news stories about that last spring. Commodity prices factor into the generation component, this blue section of the chart. Other things like extreme weather events have also impacted commodities, and those really underlie that main portion of the price that we pay for electricity supply. So we present this graph to kind of give you a sense of the main price components when we talk about electricity costs. This pie chart here is from the US Energy Information Agency, and the major takeaway here is that there's 3 components that make up the cost of electricity, and among these costs, supply is the biggest component that we can affect, right? So we have little to do with the transmission or the delivery systems, but this blue part of the pie is what we can manage with our supply choices. CCA really gets at the heart of this concept. And, when we talk about helping communities take control of their decisions over energy supply and electricity supply, making that decision locally, we're talking about your electricity supply. Hand in hand with this, we want to talk about demand for renewable electricity. And all 13 of the communities in the capital region are committed to using the CCA program in order to obtain renewable energy supply, renewable electricity. And we know that the way that we get a renewable CCA is through the purchase of tier 2 RECs, okay? So that purchase offsets the electricity our communities use, and this is what gives us that renewable green attribute of our supply. Many factors have increased demand for these RECs in the past few years, including the higher goals New York has put in place for clean energy standards and other regulatory and statutory changes that have driven kind of the state and the federal climate goals. So along with these government set goals has come some funding and some incentive opportunities, and more emphasis on renewable energy development. So those are all positives. More opportunities mean more options for connecting your residents to renewable electricity and for using the buying power of our communities to support the green economy. All right, so these are all factors that, that we think about when we think about CCA. So just a reminder at the bottom there, green supply is achieved by adding the base cost of electricity to the price of tier 2 RECs. That's how we get renewable supply for our electricity and our CCA. All right, so in 2019, when Mega obtained pricing for renewable electricity supply in our first CCA in the Southern Tier, at the time that we did that solicitation, RECs were clearing at about $3.50 a megawatt hour. When we issued the RFP this past summer in the capital region, prices for RECs had more than doubled, right? They were up to about $8 a megawatt hour, and that translates into a per kilowatt hour price increase, right, to deliver a green CCA. That price increase from $3.50 in 2019 up to where we saw the prices at last summer, largely due to growing demand for tier 2 RECs and speculation in the RECs market. There was some speculation due to the fact that NYSERDA had filed a petition regarding tier 2 RECs in January of 2020. And this led to, RECs producers seeing that there was an additional demand for their RECs, for their tier 2 RECs, with NYSERDA's plan to purchase those assets, so purchase those attributes. So this was all included in the proceeding on a motion of the commission to implement a large-scale renewable program and a clean energy standard. So that's the regulatory proceeding that this all happened within. So we know that every load zone is different. Some CCAs in some part of New York have seen prices for electricity that are different than the pricing that we can get here in the capital region. Other zones may pay more or less due to other factors we listed on the first slide. Downstate, prices can be more expensive. Largely transmission costs down there are higher. But it's important to remember that in New York, CCAs don't buy power or RECs. They don't take title to that power. This is the way that CCA programs run in other states, such as California. But in New York, the electricity supplier that we select must purchase those RECs after the load for the electricity for the customers has been used and known. And those RECs are then retired on behalf of the community in NYGATS, which is New York's recording system for tracking those renewable attributes. It's important to understand this because until NYSERDA's petition, no one could buy these tier 2 RECs other than suppliers serving a customer that had purchased this renewable electricity. All right, so CCAs must purchase those tier 2 RECs in order to get their renewable supply. Now, with this new concept opening up of NYSERDA purchasing the tier 2 RECs, the price is going up, right? Because the supply of tier 2 RECs isn't increasing. So that's what's, we've seen that play out in this past year, but we really want to talk about why that's significant and why that's a huge change in the way that tier 2 RECs are purchased in New York. So I mentioned New York's putting out a lot of new programs and incentives right now. So there's a multitude of opportunities for local governments as well as for the private sector to leverage these opportunities and help the state get to its goal of 70% renewable electricity by 2030. Additional efforts, talk about in a few minutes, just new clean energy communities funding and other proposals that might be negotiated as part of the New York State budget. We'll know more details on all of those after the budget is adopted, and that's an April 1st deadline. So this pricing phenomenon with tier 2 RECs that I just spoke about, it's not gone unnoticed. And this was a tweet, I don't know if Mark's on this presentation, but couldn't help but repost the tweet that he put out last week. The way that tier 2 RECs allocation is being done by NYSERDA does not really help CCAs get better prices. It's not intended to, right? Completing the process will at least stave off the speculation that's going on in the market, and it will create a new price benchmark, let's say, but it doesn't necessarily reduce prices. And if anyone else is a student of economics, it's sort of counterintuitive to what we know about increased demand. We'll drive up the price when the supply is fixed. Another program here, I posted a headline from Politico last week. New York State has created a lot of programs to help push towards clean energy goals, and it will continue to do so. This headline in particular was a new budget proposal that made headlines last week. It could further increase the demand for tier 2 RECs if it's enacted. So every time there's a new interested in tier 2 RECs and a new category of buyers that can open up into that market, it impacts the demand for these assets. And because there's a fixed supply, it pushes up the prices. So this particular proposal would allow New York City building owners to purchase the tier 2 RECs to offset emissions. And when you do this, when you open up, you know, this whole category of new buyers for RECs, our upstate communities lose out, right? We know that the state wants to encourage us to create this program, but you end up paying downstate prices for upstate renewable electricity. And there's frustration, you know, among our colleagues in the capital region, because we're trying to do something big like CCA, and we know the state wants to encourage this program, but the hurdles that keep coming up are frustrating, to say the least. This is an excerpt from the Clean Energy Standard Order that I mentioned earlier. And you can see from this language how the PSC is acknowledging, you know, they want to support the voluntary market for tier 2 RECs, knowing that CCAs are having to use this market in order to go green. So they use this as justification for saying, well, even though NYSERDA is going to have a solicitation and purchase these, we will allow them to make a plan to resell those to CCAs. So the irony here is that increasing demand doesn't usually increase prices. The opposite is usually true. Another excerpt from the same order. So, you know, due to all these factors, we anticipate the continued price fluctuations in the tier 2 RECs market. NYSERDA is going to complete their solicitation, and they've said that they plan to issue their awards in March or April of this year. That's their announced anticipated timeframe. They've indicated that they plan to issue a plan by May to resell those RECs to CCAs. All right, so all of these actions, however they end up playing out, will impact the market for tier 2 RECs and subsequently the pricing that we could get for 100% green supply for our CCA. Okay, so just to reiterate, you know, the state recognizes these challenges and the challenge of RECs pricing for CCAs, and their intention is to put downward pressure on RECs prices. The ultimate impact these actions will have, we won't be seen until May at the earliest of this year. Okay, so if anyone has been reading kind of headlines out of Western New York, you'll say, wait a minute. You're telling me that tier 2 RECs prices are going up. We can totally see why, but how is it that some CCAs appear to be getting great prices despite this, right? How is that even possible? And, you know, keeping in mind that different load zones have different prices. When Mega has created a CCA in the past, our supplier contracts for these RECs in their program prior to putting forward a price, okay? So the supplier is holding that RECs price fixed with their RECs provider. That's what we expect out of a supplier. Maybe all suppliers don't do that. Okay, that could be one explanation. But keep in mind that different parts of the state pay different prices for electricity. And that's some really an important factor. And it's also important to note that, you know, those RECs prices are increasing steadily. So that's going to be a major chunk of the price for any CCA. Okay, so another thing you can look at, you want to kind of get a sense of available options or what prices are looking like right now. If you go on the Power to Choose website and you select a 24-month term fixed price for 100% green, you don't get anywhere near the prices we were able to see in the capital region last summer. That's the power of aggregation. That's what we want to achieve, is to get the best rate for a green supply option that we can and that the market can reliably offer. I want to just touch briefly on an announcement before I turn it over to Nicole. Came out of NYSERDA last week, much anticipated. I think it's been almost a year we've been waiting to hear this news of the new Clean Energy Communities program. Provides your communities with a tremendous incentive to move forward with CCA. So the Capital District Regional Planning Commission has done a presentation on this program, breaking down the new funding and key features, and they're also scheduling meetings once you view that presentation. So we'd encourage you to do that if this is something that interests you. schedule a follow-up meeting with their staff and work with them. They have a great team available to help you through the process. And if you have any questions, go ahead and reach out. Jill Henk is a great contact there, and you can find lots of more information on their website as well. Okay, so I'm going to turn it over to Nicole now, and she'll come in on the next slide here.
Okay, thank you, Katie. Let's see, control of this.
And 1 second.
Okay.
There you go.
Okay. Okay, so now we're going to talk a little bit about the next phase that's being looked at for New York State CCA programs, which is incorporating opt-out community solar, which Katie mentioned briefly above. Just get back one more slide here. Okay. So as we've mentioned many times in the past, and as Katie reminded you, CCA can obtain a fixed price that beats a historic average, but it cannot provide guaranteed savings into the future. So that's always been a challenge with CCA and with trying to decide if it's the right thing for your community. One way that residents can get a discount on their electricity bill is through a community solar subscription. So this is something that anyone can do right now. Research community solar providers in the area, look at the different options available. Usually there's a 10% discount on your electricity bill. But like I said, right now, in order to do that, people must sign up on their own. So that's an individual opt-in program. A couple months ago, New York State gave the first approval for a pilot opt-out community solar program, which is done in conjunction with a CCA program. This pilot program is being done in 2 very small communities in Western New York. It hasn't yet launched. They're in their education and outreach phase, but that's the status of those programs right now. When permission was given to this pilot, the Public Service Commission opened up the option for all CCA administrators to seek approval to integrate CCA and opt-out community solar in a single offering. In December, MEGA requested this approval for our CCAs, and we'll fill you in on that in just a moment. So the really big deal here is that community solar subscriptions can ensure a discount. So this is something we want to see happen for all of our residents. We think it's a really valuable add-on to CCA as an opt-out program, and we're looking at making that a reality in the capital region. The big thing to understand about this potential program is that the Public Service Commission will be requiring any opt-out community solar program to be done along with CCA. So we can't gain approval to do only opt-out community solar. CCA must come first or alongside it. So this slide just gives you a little bit of an overview of the difference between an opt-in community solar situation and an opt-out community solar program. Hopefully later this year, this will be possible once New York State approves the opt-out program. It would work very similarly to CCA, where eligible residents would automatically be enrolled with a community solar provider and receive that 10% discount. And any resident could opt out at any time. So again, it's just providing those additional choices. And in this case, it's an automatic discount. So that's very appealing. And anyone would be eligible unless they are already with a community solar provider or if they have solar panels on their roof. So if we're looking at pairing the community solar discount with a CCA fixed rate for a renewable electricity supply, we're looking at even more advantages. That guaranteed savings for your residents, additional energy choices, and then also that greater impact on your community's clean energy goals. Oops, jumped ahead. Okay. The approval process is something to understand just so that we can be aware of what the timeline is for this program. This is something we really would like to see happen. We assume that it's something that you're interested in for your communities, and we'll have more conversations about that as we move forward. But we need to know how to get there and how long that will take. So enabling opt-out community solar requires approval by the Public Service Commission. we've been working closely with our partners at the Department of Public Service on this approval. We've been advised by their counsel that the formal process will take a minimum of 4 months. There's strict administrative rulemaking procedures that must be gone through. There's the SAPA process, there's a public comment period, the PSC meeting. It can take quite a while for that all to be complete. One thing that we do want to mention about the public comment period is that your community can submit comments to encourage DPS to approve MEGA's proposed program expansion. And we'll let you know when that public comment period opens and how you can put in your opinion on that. One last thing to mention on that expanded plan is that MEGA's plan includes an option to serve low-income residents. This currently isn't possible with CCA only, as it's not a guaranteed savings program. If approved, we expect that it would be the same idea where that would only be allowed in conjunction with a CCA program. And again, we'll keep you updated on that. We'll be looking for your feedback as that moves forward. So that's what we hope will be possible moving forward with this year. The second part of that is what's possible now. What can we make happen now? How can we help your residents to access the benefit of community solar? So we know there's a couple of programs already in place right now that we hope to work with you on, to partner on, and expand the awareness of those programs. Many of your communities have been participating in Solarize campaigns. There are active Solarize campaigns in all 8 of the Capital Region counties. And those programs encourage people to sign up for community solar. They have a preferred provider that they work with, and it makes the process easy for residents. They still need to sign up one by one, but that selection has already been made, so that helps make the process easier. So even before opt-out community solar is approved, we can partner with your municipalities and organizations to promote your Solarize efforts and encourage residents to sign up for community solar through that program. We've covered this a bit at our education sessions in the past. We can continue to do that moving forward. And we can also modify CCA opt-out letters to provide that Solarize sign-up information. Even if opt-out community solar is not approved yet, we can still help you promote your Solarize campaigns. There's a small added benefit there as well. So if we team up to promote that campaign, you may be eligible for additional clean energy communities points. And then once opt-out community solar is possible and is in place, more residents can become a part of that community solar subscription and benefits. So just to kind of put this all into context of the bigger picture, the energy landscape locally, federally, statewide, over the past month, as I'm sure you've seen, there's been a lot of action both locally and nationally to aggressively pursue renewable energy goals. The momentum's building, the focus on the climate crisis is sharpening. I know we can all kind of feel that focus coming into play right now. MEGA is committed to helping your community do its part. Green CCAs, as you know, have a significant impact on clean energy goals. The Capital Region is poised to connect 90,000 households with renewable electricity. That's really big. And just to put into context how huge that is, if all 13 municipalities decide to move ahead with a 100% green CCA, we will avoid the annual greenhouse gas emissions equivalent to nearly 120,000 cars, approximately 62 million gallons of gas, or 23 million trash bags of waste in the landfill for every year that the CCA operates. So that's pretty major. We're hopeful that 2021 is the year to be bold with CCA in your communities, and we're here to help you make that happen. I'll turn it back over to Katy to discuss how we can move CCA forward this year.
Thanks, Nicole. That was great. All right. So, you know, we've mentioned community solar and some of our outreach materials we provided you all with in the fall. And so now you've kind of got a sense of our game plan to really make that program expansion a reality and integrate it into our 2021 CCA strategy and goals. So we've had some excellent engagement and success in 2020 with community outreach. And we want to maintain this momentum, kind of build off of it with regular updates and outreach to community groups and grow that additional awareness of CCA in the capital region. I think that 2020 was, the latter part of 2020 was challenging due to the pandemic. And I think we know that there was a lot going on to take away the focus, but now's the time to kind of draw back, refocus, and Meg has developed some new communications efforts that we'll be launching in 2021 to include more opportunities to learn as an aggregation, additional web resources and social media engagement to help keep CCA in front of your community members. While we press to obtain the PSC's approval for the expanded plan to include opt-out community solar, there's action required on the part of participating municipalities to reaffirm your commitment to exploring CCA and to engage with community solar. We can help you through that process, make it as seamless and efficient as possible. DPS will provide guidance on how communities will need to update their local laws and what kind of boxes need to be checked in order to make that integration happen. But Mega will provide you with a toolkit to make this simple. And we do plan to re-release our RFP this year. You know, we continue to monitor the market, understand shifting dynamics in electricity supply pricing. When communities are prepared and engaged, Mega will work with you and issue this re-release of the RFP to provide more options and additional value to your communities. We have no set timetable for this. The only thing required is the attention, engagement, and support of your 13 communities and your local leaders. So we're excited that CCA is going to be a great achievement for your communities in 2021. We're excited for the prospect of the program expansion, taking green supply from doing a renewable CCA and adding it to the financial benefit of community solar, which it's not the same thing as green supply, but it's another way to use the collective buying power of our communities to support the renewable economy and to really get that benefit into our own residents' hands. It's a great incentive that's out there, and we're really excited to use that opportunity to help move this aggregation forward. Okay, so a few things to consider. The timing of the NYSERDA solicitation and the resale plan for tier 2 RECs. I didn't list this to mean that our CCA supplier will be purchasing RECs from NYSERDA. This is here because NYSERDA's work in this area we know is having an impact on pricing. And we expect that the market will be shifting in anticipation of that solicitation and hopefully will settle once that price is established for NYSERDA's work. Also, the regulatory process is an important thing to consider. The move to expand Mega's plan is important, and your community leaders and local advocacy organizations, the Capital Region has a great number of, and many of you on this that are watching this, I know are involved in. That's a wonderful opportunity to help elevate the importance of a swift plan approval process so that we can really get this benefit out to your communities this year. And we look forward to kind of partnering with your organizations to have your support for these initiatives help drive this forward. I think we can do it as soon as we want, and we just have to be ready to push it and be ready to support it in the right ways. So, this third element is really the most important. I think the readiness of our community leaders to take the next step and move forward. It's an exciting time to be working in renewable energy, and having the priorities locally to engage on this issue if you're on this webinar now, that you've already taken that step. You already care enough about this to want to see it be successful. And we want to see each of our 13 communities here in the Capital Region be successful with this in 2021. I think it would be a great bit of good news that we're all looking for. All right. So just in terms of planning with your community, we know that timing is tricky, but we really want to hear from you. We want to understand your feelings about this proposal and understand if you support this direction and the strategy for CCA in 2021. I mean, I think it's absolutely the way to help residents at this time and to achieve those local clean energy goals. It's sort of a win-win opportunity. So if you're interested in bringing opt-out community solar to your residents, please let us know that you support this plan. Give us a call or an email, let us know your feedback. Many of you are already in dialogue with, and we know that this is an exciting development and something that we've really wanted to accomplish for a long time. DPS is in the process of drafting guidance, as I mentioned, for this opt-out community solar integration. Okay, so as Nicole mentioned, NYSERDA even included it in their Clean Energy Communities Plan as an additional points element. So we know that the state is planning to permit this. We know that, that this is intended to move along. So let's let our action drive it to move along as soon as we want it. The landscape in New York is really exciting. It's dynamic, it's constantly changing. And our goal at MEGA is really to provide you with a CCA program that helps your communities take advantage of these opportunities. And our work has always been about helping educate members of your community and residents, helping everyone understand energy choices more, empower local governments to take bold steps in pursuit of your energy goals. And, Nicole and I and Anna, we're all really excited to do this and looking forward into 2021 with this goal in mind. So we're really looking forward to your questions and to the conversations we're going to keep having in the days and coming weeks. Please reach out to us via phone or email anytime. We want to hear from you. We want to learn more about how this strategy can work hand in hand with your community's goals for 2021. So thanks so much for watching, and we look forward to the conversations.